Module 3, Aruba Instant Captive Portal. In this module, we will do an introduction to Guest for Captive Portal, configuring Captive Portal wireless LANs, how we assign a VLAN to the guests, look at the guest roles to limit corporate access, sources of the Captive Portal page, such as an IAP splash page, or the use of external Captive Portal like ClearPass and the ClearPass splash page and wall garden. Guest access is often configured on the IPs along with other wireless LANs, such as the employee wireless LAN. Guest access is used to give non-employees access to the internet. Guest access is also used to give the network more security. When no guest access is configured, the trend is for employees to give guest access to the corporate network. If a guest access is available, then employees steer the invited guests to the guest SSID and the corporate network is not compromised. The IPs can give out a simple Captive Portal page. The Captive Portal logon screens are served directly from the IP. For more sophisticated guest access solutions, Aruba's ClearPass server can be used for credit card processing, self-registration, and forget my password recovery. The wizard is an easy way to configure the guest SSIDs you want for the IP cluster. You will pass 4 stages using the wizard. The first stage is to select the type of SSID you want to configure. The guest selection will lead you to Captive Portal authentication. The next stage is to select the VLAN. With the guest selection, virtual controller assigned is the recommended VLAN setting. You then receive Captive Portal options. The last stage is setting up the firewall with the guest rights. To create a guest access, you click on the New under the Network section, which launches the Wireless LAN Wizard. On the first page of the wizard, select the name of the guest SSID and click on the radio button Guest. With this selection, the following screens will be for Captive Portal authentication. For VLANs, if default is selected, then the VC will choose a subnet 172.31.98, or if there is a conflict, then the subnet 10.254.98. The user will be assigned an IP address from one of these subnets. If custom is selected, you can specify the subnet and scopes. The IP will NAT the guest traffic to the uplink address of the IP. The security page gives you choices for the splash page. The internal authenticated splash page uses the IAP's internal database, while the internal acknowledged option simply displays the policy page to accept. The external page gives you more attributes to use an external server like ClearPass. If the option for Facebook, this allows you to bring up a local business page. Selecting this option requires you to have a compatible Facebook local business page. You can change the welcome text and the policy text by clicking on the icons. Encryption can be enabled if desired. MAC authentication can also be enabled. If MAC authentication is enabled, then a server must be chosen to authenticate the MAC addresses. Enabling MAC authentication also allows you to enable accounting. You can change the welcome text and the policy text by clicking on the icons. The color of the background can be selected, and you can also upload a logo, but this must be no larger than 16K. If the IP loses the uplink port and falls back to a backup uplink such as 3G, 4G, you can disable this wireless LAN. Network-based rules will be for all guests on the guest wireless LAN. This will be the post-authentication role guest. Here you should place all the rules necessary for guests to have access to the internet, but not to the corporate network. This is the IAP Captive Portal page. The user device will receive a welcome page and a policy text that must be accepted. At this point, the user is placed in an internal CP role. Since authentication is required, a username and password must be entered. Also notice the flower that was added as a logo, and the background color was changed. If a more sophisticated page with more options is required, an external server like ClearPass would be necessary. Once authenticated, the user is placed in the guest role. When a user associates to the guest SSID, the user is placed on an internal CP role. Once the user has successfully authenticated, the user is placed in the guest role. If the default role is set to guest and no pre-authentication is set, the guest role will automatically be converted to a network-based role. If pre-authentication is set, then once a user or device associates, they are assigned a pre-auth role. The guest role is assigned only after authentication is approved. Configure a pre-authentication role that allows some access to the user before the client authentication. Set this as the assigned pre-authentication role. The client will still get a Captive Portal page, but they will still be allowed to access without authentication certain locations. In this example, 10.1.99.100 server. If external is selected, configure a Captive Portal profile that will direct the authentication to an external server like ClearPass. This is the ClearPass Captive Portal page. ClearPass has the advantage of having the following options: self-registration, forgot my password, advertising, and customizable Captive Portal pages. The walled garden access is required when an external Captive Portal is used to gain access to permitted sites like a hotel's main page. From the main GUI, click on the Security tab, then on the Walled Garden tab. Walled Garden allows you to create a list of blacklisted sites or whitelisted sites. The whitelist sites would give the user access to the configured sites prior to authentication. If the requested URL does not appear on the blacklist or whitelist, the request is redirected to the external Captive Portal. In this module, we did a guest introduction and saw the necessity of having guest access. We configured the Captive Portal wireless LAN. We demonstrated how to assign IP addresses to guests. We showed the guest roles that could be applied to limit the guest to the internet and not the corporate network. We saw the various sources of Captive Portal pages. We also looked at the IAP splash page. We also looked at the external Captive Portal possibilities. And we demonstrated a ClearPass splash page. We also looked at Walled Garden for the blacklist and whitelist sites.